Yeah, I mean, with the readership of the paper, obviously we've got a massive readership, and the only way we deliver the right audience really is to get the content right that we give that audience. Certainly, bricks and mortar is very more market-led in terms of the editorial, whereas home is more of an aspirational read. So within bricks and mortar, you know, you've got the sort of buy-to-let market. Professional landlord would read it for up-to-date statistics, whereas home would probably provide the inspiration to move into that market. And as we saw before about young professionals becoming landlords as well, you catch people at various stages throughout their life. And to inspire someone to get into the market, we've certainly got the audience for that.
Nick Leeming, Zoopla, what are their plans?
I think the traditional property portal model is very much one that just provided rentals available for the tenants or prospective tenants. And I think the world has moved on now. So while traditional property portals serve the tenancy sector very well, it did little for the landlords. And we've got 27 million property records on site now with a huge range of valuation data. And I think that's really important for the professional landlord and the amateur landlord, because at the end of the day, they want to know what their property values are doing. They want to know what trends are doing. They want information about their investments. So I think as a site, we now appeal as much to landlords as we do to tenants.
And do you think landlords and tenants treat, say, your website as professionally as maybe the buyers and sellers do out there at the moment?
To what extent do the landlords use us for professional research? I think that that is the way the web is moving now, that we're very much an instrument of research than we were just a find and display facility for search purposes. So I think the landlords are doing much more in terms of following what their investments are doing, how values are performing, and what the trends are.
And Dave, you giving equal weight in the Sunday Times to lettings as much as sales?
In terms of the coverage,
yeah,
I would say it was more in bricks and mortar, definitely. Certainly Peter's written some articles in home, but I would say because it's market-led, you get more in bricks and mortar in the Times.
And Nick, a genuine alternative?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely a genuine alternative. I mean, there's an inordinate amount of people out there wanting to know and wishing to know. And you know, couple it with Nick's Zoopla site as well. There are many places online utilising the social web and the Web 2.0 capabilities that we can find these new people.
And you don't think the likes of Twitter or LinkedIn or Facebook could actually start muscling in on the agents' marketability to landlords and tenants, or would you expect that to happen?
Distinct possibility. I can't predict the future, unfortunately. I don't know where the web's going to be exactly within a number of years, and some of them actually might start charging, who knows, for professional services, but it's up to the individual. I mean, there's one thing about the social web that is very true and very apparent. No one shoe fits all. Yeah. So everyone has to have their own opinion, their own method, their own method on which they want to utilise their business.
Okay, interesting stuff. Next question. How can agents use different media in order to demonstrate their credibility? Dave?
I think this is really about the message you want to get across to the audience on the particular choice of media. You know, do you want to be branding yourself? Do you want fast transactions? Or do you want a completely new channel to reach fresh people? I think in terms of demonstrating the credibility, you've got to come out and basically give the people the stats up front. We find that a lot of agents want instructions but rely on an advert with their portfolio of their products in there to get them instructions rather than coming out and saying, give us your instructions. So I think you basically, in terms of the print media, if you were to come out and actually say that, you might get the credibility across better.
So Nick, are you saying that if I'm a lettings agent going and pitching for business, the fact say I'm advertising in the Times or the Sunday Times, you would say that should give credibility to that particular business? Thank you. Nick?
Well, I think I've kind of answered this one already. I mean, obviously, to show or demonstrate your credibility on the web is quite simple. Just use a blog. Write something. Have an opinion. Indeed, before lunch, Peter was suggesting that obviously the difference between a poor company and an outstanding company, well, what are those differences and why can't you write about them? Remember that these things are there in perpetuity. What I'd like to add to that is there is some new systems out on the web at the moment, which is very clever algorithms which actually search through the social web. So what you can do with these algorithms is you can pick out who is suffering pain for whatever reason and direct them to your sense of credibility. In other words, your blog or whatever. Now, based on the fact that those algorithms are here today and that we can utilize these things today, it's not a far-fetched thing to expect that within a couple of 3 years, these systems are going to be available to the general public. So when they're using these systems to find the most credible agencies to use, then they're going to be used licensing systems. But the trouble is, if you haven't written anything, they can't find you. So that's a very good way and a very cost-effective way of showing your experience and credibility.
And Nick, Tad, I stay with you. In terms of having the skills to be a tweeter or on that social sort of media side, what sort of skills are really required for the agent on the ground floor to get the messages across or to get what they want out of that particular media?
Okay. Quick answer is that the web in itself, you've got to look at the web as some form of file of facts. The web is there to organise us. Twitter organises conversation, YouTube organises video, Flickr organises pictures, Zoopla organises property searches, and so on and so forth. The simplest way on Twitter, if you're going to come from the point of view that Twitter is there solely to organise your conversation, can everyone in this room talk? Right, you're good at Twitter. It's as simple as that. Remember, the caveat is that whatever you do say there stays there in perpetuity. So just don't be tweeting when you've had a couple of sherbets.
Okay, Nick Leamy.
I think the way that agents should show credibility in property portals is much the way as you do in print as well. You need to have a high standard of presentation and the information that you make available to prospective landlords and tenants. But there are other ways as well, and every new medium has evolving capabilities, and in much the same way as the social web enables an interchange of information. So we, for instance, have a Q&A section to our site. So people interested in moving to a certain part of the country might want to know, what are the schools like? What are the communications like? What's the market doing? Where are values going? So we enable agents to answer queries relating to their particular patch and to demonstrate that they are the credible authority for that particular area, which clearly is a good thing because that then gets you business opportunities that might not have been otherwise available to you.
And Nick, we go back a long way. We started our residential websites with yourself all those years ago, and that was very much driven by sales. Lettings became a bit of a bolt-on. Do you think that gap is now bridged in terms of giving the same information on a lettings property as it is to a sales property? Or do you still think it's lagging slightly behind? I would say it's still lagging slightly behind, but you may have a different view.
It's interesting from our site because the response levels we see are probably higher in respect of rentals than they are in sales. There's a fairly marginal difference. But I think that the internet, and of course I would say this, wouldn't I, is the obvious medium for rentals because rentals is a fast-moving market. You know, you put a property up for let and it may go within the next 10 days. And that's very difficult in terms of print deadlines, to be able to manage your available stock and keep it up to date. So I do think that the property portal is very much the place where tenanted properties are best promoted. And
Nick, I presume you wouldn't agree with that?
There is many. If you think about the social web, there are many with different ways that you can integrate the systems within to what you want to do. So there is very much going to be a dovetailing between what Nick, my namesake, would say and what I would say as well, really.
And Dave, has it changed at all within the advertising sector?
In terms of integrating the media?
Absolutely.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think, you know, I'm here representing print. Obviously, print faces criticism of being a dying media. We're investing to try and stop that, but we are fully aware that there are other ways of getting the media in terms of technological ways. I mean, I'll give you an example. I mean, if you think about the person who buys the Times in the morning, they might read it on their way to work, but as soon as you get to work, they've got a lot of other ways of getting information. The paper might go home with them, but for the rest of the day, they've got other access. You know, if you might be in a cab going to a meeting, you're not likely to take your paper with you, but you might have your smartphone. And I think it's vital that you use the message in print to promote the things that you're doing online, or certainly social web, to tell more people about what you've got so they can access you at various points in the day.
Slightly contentious question. Obviously, during the downturn, I presume a lot of agents actually switched their allegiance possibly to advertising more to portal strategy. Have you seen that come back again now?
Definitely. I think it's the only part of the market that's come back to what it was like before. New homes and overseas is nowhere near that. Agents is definitely back on form.
And Nick, Tad, you probably weren't affected by the first downturn 2-3 years ago in terms of Twitter and Facebook and YouTube.
It wasn't there.
You weren't even there. So.
No, I mean, the downturn you're referring to, what was in the early...
Well, just in general advertising, agents realigning how their advertising marketing spend was spent. As you say, you were free, so you would expect more, as it were, traffic to come via your media.
Yeah, I mean, it's very difficult for the social web to actually, I won't lie to you, to actually quantify an actual ROI, in a manner of speaking, because it is too new. It's very early, so it's going to be a difficult one to answer that one straight away.
Okay, I'm going to ask you one more question. How would you recommend agents integrate these three media to ensure that the most value is driven from them? And Dave, perhaps I could start with you there.
Yeah, I think just going back to what I said, I mean, really, you've got to tie the message together between all of them because, you know, there's various ways that people access your brand. And if you're not telling them about every single way they can get to it, then you're going to miss some people. So I think it's the message you put in each advert and how you tie it together like that.
Nick Leamy?
I think how people should integrate the three media, I think you need to look at, and this is my view, as to what each media does. And I think, Dave, you touched on it, that I think print media now is very much for the browser, the people reading the newspaper on their way into work. People perhaps didn't realise they wanted to buy a cottage in the country. So it's the sort of the lifestyle appeal that some of those coloured magazines have. I think the social media is very much more two-way exchange of information, and that is the great change in social media that's brought to us all. But I do think that the property portals are there for the most focused research, be it for people purely trying to find properties to rent, or be it for landlords to look at capital appreciation and values as well. So I think each media has a part, but you must realise what part or what element that media has to play.
Okay, Nick, thank you. We'll stop you there. And Nick, final response.
Okay, I mean, only a fool would rely on a singularity. I think we all agreed on that one before we came up here today. I think to concur to what Nick said as well, you have to integrate all three types of media within your campaign, if you like. Again, if we look at the way that humans are interacting with the machine, they are tending to use the phones, the iPhones, the computer, the internet, the web, whatever we want to call it, first of all, and then they're going to be direct, and that could be via the offline, the newspapers as well, as a way of being found. So using that to be found, but pointing them directly to something like Zoopla at the end of the day, where it's actually where they're going to do the business, potentially. But then the caveat I put to that one is there is, again, no one shoe that fits all, so everyone has to, take their own path, if you like.
Gentlemen, we've had our time. Thank you very much for your responses. Ladies and gentlemen, the choice is yours. Thank you very much.